left the speaker on. Just shut it off. Hopefully it doesn't end the stream. And it did. Restarting. We're live. So every time this dies, turns on or dies, it resets this.
Oh.
It's done it multiple times now, and I couldn't figure out why. Sorry, bad camera angle. Oh, man. There we go. What's going down, guys? Sorry, I'm trying to set up this little angle here so I can see a little better. It's awkward. Awkward angle. Yeah, that's kind of better. Rolling a blunt real quick. How's everybody doing this morning? Let me turn on the live chats. Not sure what's going on here with all these. No. I don't know what I pushed. There we go. All right. What's going down, guys? Rolling a blunt real quick. Almost done. Got a cup of coffee here. Just got off of a live stream on another channel, and figured I'd fire this up and say what's up to you guys. We could talk a little bit about what's going on around the world and things that I know, and things you should know if you don't already. All over a nice fat blunt, and the wife's sitting here chilling with me, so she ain't on camera, but she'll be here. I wanted to talk about World War III, end times sort of thing. The Great Awakening, right? What's going on around the world right now. I'm not sure if you guys are paying attention to that or not. Hold on, I'm almost done. But there's an awakening happening for sure. Alright, here we go. See how quick I can twist this real quick. I'm almost done. I was breaking up the weed already. We're gonna get into some shit, because it's time, you guys. The world, I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but shit is going down. It is definitely time. Here we go. I'm trying to hurry so I don't lose you guys. I know you guys hate sitting here watching me roll blunts, so. Almost done. Alright, so what you guys smoking on today? Anyone session? Tell me what's going on with you guys. Let's get these comments popping. If you can hear me, leave me something in the chat. Make sure this audio is good. And we're going to get into this. I'm going to start doing a lot more live streams, because we got a lot to talk about. And they're eventually going to be on the other channel. I know I keep telling you guys that. Roots of Blood, Leaves of Light. Because, well, I can't make any money off this channel. And I'm realizing I'm going to need some funding for equipment so that I can actually do good live streams. And this channel, I think, is getting blocked. I don't think YouTube's letting me get the word out too easy, so. Almost done. You guys see how quick I'm rolling this bad boy. I know it's slow, but it's quick for my method. You guys saw how I roll blunts. I do it the same way every damn time. It never fails. Alright. Blunts rolled. Boom. Pow. And go here. Clip our little end. And we got a cannon, folks. Okay, it's not a cannon. It's more like a pistol, but you feel me. Where's my torch at? You see my torch? It might be in the truck still, actually. Thank you. Alright, guys, so let's get into this shit. I don't do these, obviously, for popularity or for money or anything, really. But I do these because I want to get some information out to you guys. Are you guys paying attention to the shit that's going on or not? Let me check these messages here, these comments. Until then, chew them pills and conform. Be blessed in the troubled times, pal. Anu will be revealed. We're all God inside. By then, it'll be too obvious. Hello, sir. All right. Well, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about Anu. We're gonna talk about what's really going on, because as humans, we have this problem with thinking that we are all just one big happy family, and that we all have the same inheritance and the same. Oh, I found it, babe. It's sitting right next to me. Sorry. It was right next to me. I'm sorry. All right, so let's get into this, right? Who is Anu? You guys know who Anu is? Who is Anu? Who is Enlil? Who is Inki? Who is Ninurta? Who is Ninma? Who is Ninki? These are the Anunnaki, right? We're going to talk about the Anunnaki a little bit. Sorry, it takes me a minute to get up and going here, you guys. I got to get my blunt rolling, get my coffee going. I know you guys get bored, but all right. It's no rush. We're just chilling. So, the Anunnaki are the deities that created humanity, okay? And they are known throughout the entirety of the world, all right? You may or may not have heard of them, but they are literally known in every region, all right? Oh, this is still a little too high, sorry. They're known in every region around the world. And they are worshipped as gods in most places, all right? In Hinduism, they are the deities like Vishnu, Shiva, Brahman, and Mayan shit. They're Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl, stuff like that. In Hawaiian is Pele, Kanaloa, Kane, things like that. And yeah, they're every indigenous population has these stories. Okay, and there's no getting around them. Now you might wonder, why does this have to do with the politics of today, preparing for war, a great awakening, yada yada? Well, everything happens on the universal clock, so to speak, which is the movement of the stars. All right, the movement of the stars is an oscillation. Right, it's a frequency that can be measured. Right, why can it be measured? Well, because it's an oscillation. Everything is repetitive. Okay, and if something is repetitive, then it can be measured. All right, as far as its movements go. And if its movements can be measured, that means that a time frame can be calculated. All right, time is space. Space is time. Do you understand? It's just movement. That's all it is. Time is just movement. When you travel through space, it creates time, right? However, time is technically an illusion. So, because of that, they're what the Hindus would refer to as the Yuga cycles. All right, these great grand cycles. I feel like this is too far away. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get this a little better. There we go. So there's these big cycles called Yuga cycles, right? And the Mayans also knew of the Yuga cycles, right? So do the Polynesians, right? And they all call them by different names, but it's all the same thing. It's Yuga cycles, right? Now, a lot of you might not know that there's connections between all of these different cultures, right? A lot of us have been taught that all these cultures are separate. That the Hindus are the Hindus, they're Indians from India, right? And the Polynesians are islanders from the Pacific, the Polynesian Triangle in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And then you have North American, South American, Central American Indians, right? Which are considered Native Americans or Indigenous Americans or Amerindians, right? All these are just colonial titles. These are just names given to us, given to places by white folks when they found them, right? Now, if you guys don't have tough skin, you might want to leave now, because another thing that I'm about to say is for people that are emotionally unfit What I'm about to say is for people that know that the truth hurts and want to deal with it anyways. All right. And so, what we refer to as the Caucasian race of people, and keep in mind when I'm talking about Caucasians, you guys, my white side is Caucasian. I was raised by white people. All right. I don't even know my black side. All right. So this has nothing to do with like favoritisms or anything. This just has to do with history, not my personal opinions or emotions. All right. So in history, the indigenous people of every land on this continent are what we as Americans refer to as black people, right? All indigenous people were originally black people, so to speak, right? Black is just a fucking color. It's a label. It's a descriptive label that people use to refer to melanated people, right? The darker they are, the more likely they are to be referred to as black. If they have African features, right, what we refer to as African or negroid features, like my big nose, my button nose, right, my big lips, right, we consider these African features or negroid features, right? Science would call them that. Eugenics would call them that. Geneticists would call them that, right? These are features that we use to for eugenology, right? To study bone structure, features, things of that nature. All of us are on a mission to try to figure out where we come from and where we're going. Okay. Well, everybody comes from the Anunnaki. This is true. Anu being the leader of the Anunnaki, right? Or Anunnaki, right? Okay, so Anu is who the Bible would refer to as the Heavenly Father. He's considered the Heavenly Father because he is the ruler of the Anunna, those who reside in heaven, right? Heaven isn't some magical place. Heaven is space, okay? But space isn't how we see it. We see space in 3 dimensions, which means we don't see anything beyond 3 dimensions, which means if it's not a piece of physical matter, okay, then we can't see it, okay? Well, they exist in the ether, not the matter. And space is ether. They call it the waters or the firmament that separates the waters. Do you see what I'm saying? If you studied any of the ancient literature, the Book of Enoch, the Sumerian tablets, Akkadian tablets, Babylonian tablets, any of this shit, you'll hear the mention of the firmament quite a bit. You also hear the mention of the waters, right? They'll talk about the separation of the waters all the time. There's constantly a talk of that. The fresh water from the salt water, the above waters from the lower waters. There's a separation. It's in Genesis. It's in all the stories, right? If you read the Lost Book of Enki, it's a great place to start. You will see in the very opening tablet, they discuss the formation of the planet Earth, okay? And they discuss it in great detail. What had happened was there was multiple collisions between Tiamat and Nibiru, okay? And Earth is Tiamat, what's left of it. And the Kuiper Belt is the other half of Tiamat, all right? So Earth is half of Tiamat, the Kuiper Belt is the other half. It was separated, broken apart from coming in contact with the planet Nibiru, as the ancients would call it in Sumeria, okay? It's known as the Kachina to the Hopis, right? The blue star and the red star, depending on what time it is in the cycle. It's also considered the black hole sun. It's also considered the dark star. It's also called Nemesis. NASA would refer to it as Nemesis, right? It's a real thing. It's a real fucking planet, and it is not like all the other stars you're going to see that are reflecting light, because it's a dark star. It doesn't reflect a bunch of light like everything else. It appears literally as a shadow that is backlit, or a what is that called? A silhouette that is backlit when things are behind it, such as the sun, right? Which is why it's unseen the majority of the time. Now, when it struck Tiamat, right, and it shed Tiamat into pieces, it created the Kuiper Belt and it created Earth. Earth retained much of Tiamat's gold, but not all of it. A lot of the gold got left in the atmosphere, or in the atmosphere, in space. I'm sorry, outside of the atmosphere. in the Kuiper Belt, what we call the Kuiper Belt today. They would refer to it as a hammered bracelet in the ancient times, in ancient Sumeria. All right. So Anu sent his people down to check and see if what the hell is his name again? Anzu found was true. Anzu lost his rulership over Nibiru. He was fucking booted off the throne. He lost his fight against Anu, and he took off. He stole a ship and he dipped out from Nibiru, and he wound up. He was a very smart man or being. He studied with all the elders for many, many years, and he acquired knowledge of the stars. He acquired knowledge of their pathways, right? Their orbits. And he left Nibiru. He traveled through the hammered bracelet, or the Kuiper Belt. He followed the path of several stars before eventually coming in contact with Earth, which he was seeking on purpose because he knew the stories of Tiamat and Nibiru. When he found Earth and he splashed down, right, he discovered gold. Okay, he radioed that back after some time. He discovered gold and life. All right, very specific mention of discovery of a serpent. Okay, discovered that here on Earth, radioed back to Nibiru and tried to regain control over Nibiru by having the gold that was needed to save Nibiru, right? They pulverized the gold, they put it in their atmosphere to save their people. Now, if you don't know these stories, you can read about them. Zachariah Sitchin writes all about them. I can tell you the whole story off of memory, damn near. But the point is, at that point, Anu sent his sons to come confirm whether or not Anzu truly was telling the truth. Was there gold on Earth, right? The remnant of Tiamat. And there was, right? And they came here, and Anu then came, and a battle ensued between Anu and Anzu, and Anu won. Anzu was, it's a long story, but he ate a dick, and he ate a dick, and he lost. And anyways, his body was buried on Mars, right? Along with several of his family members' bodies were buried on Mars. That's why there's a pyramid and a face that looks like a sphinx on Mars. It is in memory of Anzu. Now, if you follow the story, you go through all the bullshit, right? Inky creates humans, yada yada. Enlil gets mad at Inky, tries to kill humans, all that stuff. Eventually, they find out that it is destiny for humans to inherit the earth, and that it is the will of the creator of all. Okay? This is revealing to the fact that the Anunnaki are not God. They're not the most high God. They are gods to us. There's a ranking system. And I'll do a whole video on ranking. There's a ranking system. That ranking system was documented, recorded, and stored alongside the history, right? And the laws and commandments of the Anunnaki, right? They stored them in what were known as the Mies, M-E, right? The Mies, or the Tablets of Destiny. These decreed the laws, or these were the laws or the decrees or whatever of the Anunnaki. This is how they lived their lives, is according to these, right? And it was a patriarchal society, which means that royalty was passed down through the patriarchal bloodline descendancy, right? So your father's firstborn, right, would get the blood, or would get the birthright, the heirship, right? Well, that was passed down through Inky to Noah, okay? You guys know the story. In the Bible, Noah is the son of Lamech. But if you know the story from the tablets, Noah is actually Ziusudra, and he is the son of Inky, not Lamech. Sorry, guys. I'm a little clogged up here. He was the son of Inky, not Lamech, for a reason. Because Inky sent Lamech off to do his duties, and then met up with Lamech's wife and smashed her and got her pregnant. And from that came Noah. Noah was extremely smart. He was considered to be holy, divine, righteous. And that's where we'll get the white description, which is some bullshit. It's a hijack. People try to say that he was white, like a white man, but there was no white men on the planet at that time. Noah was a black man. Not only was he a black man, he was the progenitor, basically, to all the significant nationalities that exist today. Mainly through the line of Shem. He was the forefather of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob being Israel, right? Now, most people will think of the Bible when they hear these names, immediately think of Christianity or Catholicism and discredit it as not true. However, you must know the history that Catholicism and Christianity was developed based off of this knowledge, but they are not the people that the knowledge was intended for. The knowledge was intended for the 12 tribes of Israel. It was originally supposed to be for Esau and the Edomites, but they sold their birthright. They fucked up. And Jacob inherited the birthright. And because of that, the 12 tribes of Israel inherited the bloodline, the birthright, which involves what the Bible calls the covenants. Okay? What's up, Noah? I didn't know we had a Noah in here. What's up, Drift Craze, Hamlet, Josh, everyone else? What's up? What's up? What's going down? We're working towards what's going on today, right? And the Great Awakening, right? And why that's happening. We're working through the story of the Anunnaki real quickly and how the humans descended from the Anunnaki, but not just all of them. More specifically, there was a royal bloodline that was descended down through the Anunnaki, because the royalty was split into two fractions when the Anunna came to Earth, right? And when the Anunna came to Earth, there were 900 of them, 300 of which were the Agigi and are known as the fallen angels in the Bible. The rest of them were ruled over by 7 Anunnaki mainly, or 12, I'm sorry. 7 or 12, I'm getting it confused. But anyways, I believe it's 7. And those 7, right, were the new rulers of the earth, so to speak, I guess you could say. And they were ruled over mainly by Enlil, Enki, and Ninurta, right? And Enlil, rank of 50, his son Ninurta, rank of 50, Enki, rank of 40. But those ranks also corresponded with specific ages, zodiac ages, right? So the age of Aquarius is the age of Enki, which began in December 20th, 2020, I believe. Yeah, December 20th, 2020, at the Great Star Conjunction. It was the beginning of the age of Aquarius, marking the shift, right? And so you'll have 1 year of rest from there, and then from that point on, we start entering into the age of Aquarius, which takes a complete period of 7 years, and we'll be in turmoil for that 7 years. We're going to go through a lot of stuff, but there's also going to be a great awakening because of that, and that has to do with this royal bloodline that was passed down through Enki, through Noah, Ziusudra, Utnapishtim, right? Yada yada. He's got a bunch of names. Na'a. All the way down. Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Tell your son I said what's up. And so, all the way down to what is known as the 12 tribes of Israel, right? The 12 tribes of Israel were destined to inherit that royal bloodline, right? That kingship, right? Rulership over the earth. It's very significant because it cannot be changed, no matter how we try. This is destiny. It's the stars determine this, right? The movement of the stars themselves. You guys may know of the 432 hertz pattern, right? What they call the Fibonacci sequence, right? The Fibonacci sequence will lead you to what's known as the Mandelbrot set. It's also called the Buddha-Brot, right? And the Mandelbrot or Buddha-Brot is what is referred to as the thumbprint of God by quantum physicists, right, and scientists. That thumbprint of God, the Mandelbrot set, is found in all things throughout nature, including humans and plants and animals, trees, whatever. It's all there, right? And that Mandelbrot set is what was used as the foundation of what we now know as algorithms. Those algorithms are responsible for artificial intelligence. If you guys are following what I'm saying here, it's why your phones know what you're doing, right? It's how they know how to feed you the correct ads, yada yada. It's an algorithm, right? It's artificial intelligence. When you look at, I don't know, Tesla, they use artificial intelligence. They use the Mandelbrot set basically to form their algorithms in order to run all the shit that's inside of their cars, right, and inside of their fucking rockets and all their other shit that they do. If you look at the company that makes those robots, I forget the name of them right now, but they make like the robot dogs and all the other shit. Same thing, right? Artificial intelligence. If you look at Google and their new AI robot that they've been working on, right? Same thing. If you look at Amica, the robot Amica, same thing, right? This is all ran by what's known as the Mandelbrot set. The Mandelbrot set is not a man-made thing. That's actually something that we discovered in nature. It's in all things in nature, right? And that's why they call it the thumbprint of God. It's like a, what do they call that? Like a framework, right? That is in nature, right? Well, all things are subjected to that, which is why when you time-lapse a plant growing, you will see that it forms a spiral pattern every time, right? As it chases the movement of the sun, it forms a spiral pattern as it grows, right? You can watch, there's tons of them all over YouTube. You can watch these. They're cool to watch. Some of them are great. And the reason why they do this, right, is because of the 4-3-2 pattern. Now, if you watch videos like Samsara, right, you will see human patterns that operate on the same frequency, 432 hertz. And you'll see humans also move in waves and patterns that oscillate, right? And they can be tracked. Now, on our small individual scale, we may feel that we are moving at random. But when you take a step back and you look at the patterns of all of humanity, you will see that we're actually not moving at random. We're moving within herds. We're moving in patterns, and we're following these paths over and over and over again, and they create frequencies, and those frequencies can be measured and almost always produce a 432 hertz pattern, the Fibonacci sequence, right? Which leads to the Mandelbrot set. Now, all humans are subject. That's why we have a heartbeat that beats its specific rhythms, right? Everything we do, everything in existence, period, is subjective to this frequency, to this pattern, okay? The philosophers of old would call this, as above, so below, right? As above, so below. Politicians and people like that like to say, if you don't, you got to remember history because history repeats itself, right? And if you don't know history, then you don't know what's coming, right? If you know history, then you can read the future. If you know the past, you know the future, so to speak, right? It's because you're just reading patterns. Prophecy isn't a magical experience. It's not some form of like divine, interaction or something. It is literally the ability to read mathematical patterns and apply them to human behavior, nature's behavior, just the movement of the world in general, being able to look back in time to pick up on these patterns and see how they will progress into the future, right? And it's all you really need to do to learn this stuff. But if you don't go in the past, you're not going to learn what's going to potentially or most likely happen in the future according to these patterns, right? So that's what I do, right? And so that's how I figured out there's an awakening that's going to happen for sure. First, it started happening to me. But then I started seeing that it's happening to other people, and I couldn't figure out why, right? Everybody's waking up, but certain people are waking up to certain things, and other people are waking up to other things, right? And you'll see a pattern here start to unfold, right? Knowledge is at the root of this awakening, okay? And I'm going to smoke this roach, guys. As we obtain this knowledge, right, we start to become enlightened, right? And when we become enlightened, that means we become aware, awake, so to speak, pulling our heads out of our asses, out of the sand, seeing what's really going on, who we really are, okay? So in the Bible, which is just a collection of Hebrew scrolls, okay? That's what it is. Hebrew scrolls, Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian tablets all mixed together, and they created the Bible. That's all it is. It's written in parables and riddles, and God, I'm dying. I need my water. No, I need more coffee. Got more coffee for you, please? And there are specific ways to read the Bible, and that is told to you within the Bible itself, right? Precept upon precept, line upon line. Okay, here a little, there a little. All right. What that means is basically to read in the entirety of the Bible, okay, and then back it up with more stuff that's within the Bible. Now that works, but you can take it a step further, okay? Go to the original tablets, bring in the apocryphal scrolls, right? All the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi library, right? Bring all these things in, right? Bring in all the Gnostic pagan literature, so to speak. Put them all in there. Put it all there, and let's chop it up, and let's see what's really going on here, okay? You'll start to see this big picture. This bloodline that was supposed to be descending to the Israelites through Yahweh, right, is actually descended through Enki. Enki is Yahweh, okay? This bloodline is his real bloodline. It's an actual physical thing. It's not a spiritual thing. It's a real physical thing. Well, there was prophecies throughout this Bible. Those prophecies were based off of the things that had happened previously, right? As above, so below. The past repeats itself, okay? Most of it had to do with brothers. What's up, little Bobby? Most of it had to do with brothers and jealousy. Anyways, the point is, he eventually leads to the Jacob and Esau story. And it's very significant because you need to know who Jacob and Esau are. Jacob is Israel, right? Esau, right, is Edom, okay? Edom, progenitor of Edomites. Israel, progenitor of Israelites, okay? This is very, very, very significant, okay? The bloodline that split the nations, okay? The two main nations, right? This is it. This is the moment that everything went awry. The Israelites were referred to later on as the lost tribes of Israel for a reason. Because supposedly nobody knew who they were. Well, somebody knew who they were, and that was the person that hid their identity, okay? And the person or peoples that hid their identity were the Edomites, as prophesied in the Bible, right? You can read all about the Edomites in the book of Obadiah and the Apocrypha. You can read about them in Genesis. You can read about them in Hebrews, Deuteronomy, right? And they're there. And the judgments on them are in Obadiah, right? As well as judgments on Israel and prophecies and curses placed on Israel throughout Deuteronomy, okay? Now, the Israelites were to be enslaved. I've told you guys this, for those of you that paid attention. The Israelites were to be enslaved by these Edomites, right, in a land that they didn't know, really, right? Well, some of them. The tribe of Judah would be, anyways. All Israelites would be enslaved there, but some would already be there, okay? They'd be on the run. Long story short, I traced the bloodlines. And before I figured out the Israelites, I figured out the Edomites, actually. The Edomites are who we consider the Caucasian race today, okay? And this is, for those of you that are just getting here, remember I am, or if you didn't know already, I'm half white. I was raised by my white side, all right, the Caucasian side, okay? So this isn't an opinion or my feelings. I'm not bashing white folks or whatever. We deal with real history that requires tough skin on this channel, right? And so you got to have tough skin, especially if you're Caucasian, because, well, there's a lot of bad history associated with the Caucasian nation, and so, or nations, I should say, and so that directly affects all the other nations, right? And so that will be talked about on this channel, right? I'm not here to protect anybody's comfort or feelings or emotions. I am here to get the truth out, regardless of how anybody feels about it, right? So the Edomites, how I figured this out was by studying Janus, all right? If you guys don't know who Janus is a Roman deity known as the two-headed god or two-faced deity, right? It's depicted usually with one young face and one older face in the back, and that's for a very specific reason. Janus is where we get the word January, okay? Janus is Janus is also known as Quirinus, yeah, Quirinus, right? And is also known as Quaz, okay? Quaz and Idumea, right? The Idumeans, right? That's how I figured this out, right? Studying Janus. Janus was known as Quaz to the Idumeans, right? And the Idumeans were the Edomites, okay? And the Edomites lived in the land of Idumea, right? In the caves in the Caucasus Mountains, right? And this is where we get the Caucasian word from, is because the Caucasus Mountains are located in Asia Minor. So Caucasian is referring to the Caucasus Mountains in the Asia Minor region, okay? This is history, all right? Not feelings or anything. Now, the people that lived there lived in a place called Petra, right? Or at least the main city was called Petra. You guys will know Petra from the Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. It's a crazy location, right? And that is where the Jews lived with the Edomites, okay? The Edomites were ruled over by a man named Antipater. Then later his son, King Herod, would rule over the Jews and the Edomites, right? And all would be known collectively as Jews, basically, because they were all practicing Judaism, and the king considered anyone who practiced Judaism to be Jews. However, the Jews themselves did not, right? In order to be a Jew, you must be from the tribe of Judah in the Hebrew Israelite nation, right? And so there was a conflict there. King Herod would later wind up being a ruler over Rome in one of the first republics, right? I guess you could say. And this was, oh, mama, this was very significant. They overthrew Augustus Caesar, right? Who gave him power to begin with, okay? And when this happened, right, they also became the rulers of Rome, okay? So the Edomites took over Rome at this point, all right? And Janus, the two-faced god, Quaz, right, who is exalted as the eagle, for those of you that don't know, his symbol was also the eagle, was then made into the double-headed eagle, right? The double-headed eagle of Rome, the double-headed eagle of the Byzantines, or the Byzantine eagle, and then later on it would become the eagle that you would see in the Vatican, right? They use it when they put their Bibles up on those, I forget what they're called, the pedestal things that they place their Bibles on. You'll see it, most of them in the Vatican are actually eagles, right? And they place them on the wings of the eagle, a pulpit, yeah. Pulpit, yeah. Is that right? Yeah. And then they place their Bibles on that, right? Well, that eagle represents Janus. Janus, for those of you that don't know, is Enlil and Ninurta, father and son. Okay, the Father and the Son. This isn't the Father and the Son that the Jews followed, but the Father and the Son that the Edomites followed. Okay, Quaz is the enemy of Yahweh. Okay, Quaz, the god of the Edomites, is the enemy of Yahweh, the god of the Israelites. Quaz is Enlil. Okay, Yahweh is Enki. This was very significant when I figured this out. Enki's number is 40. Throughout the Bible, the most common number you are going to find is the number 4. Over and over again. 144,000. 40 days and nights. And God, and so many occasions, I forget them all. The flood and the Exodus and all kinds of things. 40 days on the mount. 40 days they ate manna. Or was it 40 days or 40 years? I forget. It's 40, 40, 40 is throughout the whole thing. It's tons of it, right? 4s are everywhere. If you go through the Bible, you start to look at the names used for God. In the English, they say God, Lord God, I am, all these other things, right? And if you actually break them down in the Hebrew, right, it's 7 different names that are used. These are the 7 names of the 7 Anunnaki. All right, and you will see that the Bible isn't talking about one God at all, but it's telling you the story of the Anunnaki and the humans that they created, right? And then the battle for the royal bloodline and its inheritance, right? Which is the inheritance of the earth, okay? This is what the whole battle is all about, all right? This is why the transatlantic slave trade happened and the colonization of the Americas, or what I call the American Holocaust. Okay? Twan, don't play out there, please. Not right there. I can hear you. And so this was very significant because everybody thinks that the transatlantic slave trade just took a bunch of random Africans, right, and brought them to America. It was Africans selling Africans into slavery to white folks that brought them to America, right, and used them to make a lot of money off of free labor, right? And then when they came to America, they just found random Indians, and they would take their land, and they just kind of take them out as they went if they needed to because they wanted the land, right? That's what most of us were kind of taught, right? The basic idea. But in reality, what happened was these are all the Israelites that were colonized. They had already fled from Israel and Africa, right? Some down into Africa, some were still there in West Africa, right? And other tribes kind of hidden. But the majority left Africa, right? And wound up mainly in the Americas. And that's where we get our Native Americans, so to speak, right? Or indigenous Amerindians, right? And I figured this out by studying my wife's people, the Taino Indians, or who she derives from, right? Her people are known as the Wanani, or in the Wanani tongue, they were called the Ebe, right? The Ebe, or Ebe, E-V-E, Ebe, right? Eve, literally, or A-B-A, it's also E-V-E in the Hebrew, right? This is some of the original people, right? This is the tribe of, shoot, I'm drawing a blank again. I'm having one of those moments. The Mexicans are Issachar. Then there's Naphtali is the Polynesians mainly. And then I'm drawing a blank right now. It'll come back to me. Anyways, they're Israelites, right? And I figured that out, right? The Taino Indians all know that they're Israelites for the most part. You can look it up. And so then I started figuring out that the North American Indians were Israelites, that the Polynesians were Israelites, right? And these are all the people from the Bible, right? But most people think they're not real, they're just long gone people, right? But the Bible tells you they'll be around in the end times because they're the ones that will inherit the earth in the end times, right? And they'll inherit the earth after the Third World War, or the final war, so to speak, what everyone refers to as the end times, right? The tribulation and the rapture, right? Or the rapture and the tribulation. If you study everything else, right, all the other stories, oral traditions, and the tablets and everything, you will find that they even found the Ten Commandments here in the United States in an Indian burial mound, written in original Paleo-Hebrew, Block Hebrew dialect, right? You will find that these stories are very much true, actually, and that they're just sound absurd because of the way they've been translated into the English. Once you study up on the Hebrew, you'll see that they're not so absurd at all. They're just telling you the story of how humans actually descended from an alien species known as the Anunna that were renamed the Anunnaki, those who from heaven came to earth. The ones that wound up here on earth were renamed the Anunnaki, or the Anunnaki, right? And we descended from them. They created us, right? And from them, right, came the royal bloodline. They were to pass down their inheritance, their royalty, to their new creation, their sons and daughters. You see what I'm saying? And through that, they used the same exact rules they used for themselves, which were the means of destiny that wound up in the four regions under Inanna and Yahweh and Ninurta, or and Yahweh's Inky, and I forget the other one that was in charge. There's four regions, right, that were broken up amongst the Anunnaki, right, and 3 to be reigned over alongside men, right, and the 4th region was off limits to men, right. This is what we know as Antarctica, basically, beyond the ice wall, right. And this is very important. The Sinai Peninsula, right, that's Saudi Arabia, okay. You just got to follow the etymology, right. The Indus Valley region is India today. The Kemetic region is Egypt, right? All these things had names before colonization, right? And when colonization happened, they were renamed. The Renaissance happened, right? There's the rebirth, right? This is when they changed everything. They stole the inheritance back, basically, is what happened, right? And then if they were able to keep those who were to inherit the birthright, which were the Israelites, from knowing who they were, then they would be able to keep them from following the commandments that were required in order to inherit the kingdom, okay? That's what happened. It's precisely what happened. That's why the Renaissance happened. The Renaissance, the rebirth, was literally the reforming of the images. Okay, they took the image of Christ, changed it from black to white. They took the image of the Israelites, changed it from black to white. Took the images of the angels, changed them from DMT entities into little white babies with wings. Right? This is what it was. Right? This is just, it is what it is. That's what happened. Right? And the more you learn about it, and the more you see this fog get pulled out from in front of your eyes, and you start to see what's really going on in the world, you realize that we are actually quickly approaching the end times, because everyone thought that we were in the new covenant already, based off the fact that Israel was given back to the Jews back in 1943 with the Balfour Declaration. Thus, we would be in the new covenant. But they're not the real Jews. They're Ashkenazi, Sephardics, right? And Mishraems and whatever, right? None of which are the 12 tribes of Israel. They can all be traced back to Gentile nations, not Israelite nations. They don't even fit the prophecies. The prophecies say that the Israelites would lose their identity, lose their last names, lose the knowledge of their birthright, right? They would be given the last names of their oppressors. They would be taken into a foreign land and held captivity for 400 years, right? Yokes of iron around their necks. None of these things happened to the so-called Jews or Jewish people, right, in Israel today, right? Israel isn't a location. Israel is a nation of people that's tracked by a patriarchal bloodline, right? And it also says that in the end times, these people would start to have a great awakening. They would start to remember who they are at the end of this 400-year period. Well, it's been 400 years since slavery started happening and the colonization of Americas, where they, it's been a little longer than that for the colonization of the Americas, but for the transatlantic slave trade, we're at the 400-year mark. And the Great Awakening is happening, because you will see that all the descendants of the transatlantic slave trades are waking up to the fact that they are Hebrew Israelites, not black people, not Negroes, not African Americans. These are all labels given to us based off of location and our physical description, right? It's not based off of our nationality. A nationality has to do with your namesake, your bloodline, your pedigree, right? And we should all have that. Not only should we all have that, we should all know that, right? Well, black folks are waking up to learn their pedigree, just as the Bible prophesies. And this is something that can't be overlooked. It's not a religion, right? The Bible isn't religious. It's just used by religions. Christianity is not what the Bible came from. Christianity came from the Bible. But what most Christians don't realize is that the promises, right, the salvation, right, the death of Christ was for the Israelites. Christ himself said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel, not to the whole world, not to all the nations, to the lost sheep of Israel, to forgive their sins, right? Not the sins of everybody, right? And when it speaks on Gentiles, you must know that there are the Gentile nations, which were not born of Israel, and then there's the Gentile Israelites, who are Israelites that fell from the laws and commandments and now are known as Gentiles. They must take on the names of wherever they live. If they live in Greeks, they would be Greek Gentiles, albeit Hebrew Israelites. If they lived in Rome, they might be Roman centurions, like who Paul went to talk to, albeit they were Hebrew Israelites. Do you see what I'm saying? This is why the fucking New Testament was written in Greek as well as Hebrew, because there were many Israelites that lived amongst the Greeks and only spoke and identified as Greco-Romans, period, right? This had to happen. There's no way to speak to them unless you spoke their language. They didn't speak Hebrew anymore. There was generations of them living amongst the Greeks. Thus, Paul wrote to them. Do you see what I'm saying? In Greek. This is very significant. And you can learn this by studying the actual Septuagint and by studying the Hebrew. Okay? Septuagint is it's the Bible still. But anyway, it's the Greek version with the Apocrypha and all the shit. So you gotta study these things, guys. And if you don't, you'll never know. You'll just think I'm talking out my ass probably, or just winging it. But I'm not. This is real shit. And so once you figure this out, you start to realize that the Great Awakening is happening, right? And the Israelites are those people that were colonized during the colonization of the Americas. Not just the Native Americans, But also, all you got to think, Native American is just a broad term that refers to a bunch of individual nations of people that existed amongst the Americas, from the southern tip all the way up into Canada. Okay, it's a huge amount of people, millions and millions and millions of people, right? These people are Hebrew Israelites, but not all of them are going to come back to the laws and commandments. Only 144,000. All right. Also, the Caribbean folks, the Haitians, Jamaicans, the Cubans, right, Puerto Ricans, these are all Hebrew Israelites. You see what I'm saying? You go to the Polynesian Islands, right? You'll hear about what was called black. What do they call it? Black lighting or something like that, or black something. I forget the name of it right now. I'm drawing a blank again. But it was basically the same thing, transatlantic slave trade, but in the Pacific. It was the Pacific Atlantic slave trade, right? Where they would take all the indigenous people from their islands and take them all over, and they'd bring all kinds of other slaves from Puerto Rico. That's why Puerto Rico's got tons of people out here in Hawaii. They came over in the transatlantic slave trade, but it was in the Pacific, the same thing, right? This is tremendous history, right? I'll talk to Puerto Ricans out here, and I'll be like, you guys know who you are, right? You're Taino. They'll be like, yeah, I know I'm Taino. You know they're Israelites, right? Yup. They know. Why? Because they're waking up, right? Talk to the Marshallese. They'll know. They know they're Israelites. They still follow a lot of the laws and commandments, right? That's why their women are all covered still. They wear dresses, right? And cover their heads and all kind of shit, right? They follow laws and commandments. There's a lot of this out here, you guys. And I'm trying to wake people up to it because it's time. Only 144,000 are going to make it. And those 144,000 are only going to make it because they invested the time to learn this shit, figure out who they really are, and then start coming back to the laws and commandments of our people, right? It's very, very significant. And this doesn't have nothing to do with religion. Remember that. Christian church was started by the Edomites, right? The Catholic Church started by the Edomites, right? Catholic Church is just a branch off Christianity, okay? The Muslims, they're Ishmaelites, okay? Not part of the 12 tribes. The Africans, they are Hamites. They're not part of the 12 tribes. Albeit there are 12 tribes amongst the Hamites, okay? This is all significant. I don't know if you guys study up on your biblical history or on your cultural history, your migration patterns, etymology, anything like that, but you should, because all of this has to do with what's going on right now. The Gog and Magog, the great end wars, right? Where Russia and China are going to invade the United States of America. They're going to win. They're going to drop nukes on the U.S. and they're going to invade and they're going to win, right? And after they win, they're going to turn on each other. Russia is going to get pushed all the way back to France, okay? Somewhere around that area by CERN, okay? When that happens, they're going to submit to China and sign a treaty, okay? Then they're going to come back hunting for Israelites. All of what's going on has to do with this story. It doesn't have to do with your gas prices. It doesn't have to do with the money, okay? The money is just to back up gold deposits and fund more and more mineral resource mining, right? These resources aren't even for humans. They're mainly for Anunnaki. They've been sending gold into space for fucking tens of thousands of years, you guys. A long time. A long, long time. Okay, the gold is not for us. What do you think is all that? What do you think is all that? There's literally a fraction of gold left here compared to what was here before, right? The royal empires still have gold deposits, right? Fort Knox still has some, but not a lot, right? Most of these gold deposits are depleted, right? Gold doesn't just fucking disappear. What do you mean it's gone? It just melt it and just what happened, right? You can't convert gold into cash. That's not a real thing. You can trade it, but you can't convert it, right? So where's it at, right? Well, it's the same place it's always been. Going to Nibiru to get pulverized to put in their fucking atmosphere to save their fucking planet. It's the same thing. It's been written in stone for 10,000 years, you guys. It's crazy. But nobody pays attention to this. Everyone thinks this is, it's just man-made stuff. They just wrote it down, man-made stuff. No, it's not. It is 100% not. And men are no different than Anunnaki. We're just a dumber version of them, basically, at the moment. All right? But we have the capacity to be just like them, to achieve the same power that they have, to achieve the same freedoms that they have, to be multidimensional just like them, to ascend the material body. We have the power, we just don't know how to use it. And the funny thing is, they've told us how to use it. It's written in ancient literature. But people don't think it's real. They don't think it's real. The only ones that do know it's real are the ones that run the fucking world. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Boule, the Rosicrucians. These are the people who run the fucking world. And they all know this. All this knowledge derived from the teachings of Solomon and Moses and Ezekiel, right? Who is Indabsar, like Jesus, Yawahashi. These are the teachings of the Anunna passed down through the Israelites. And the Israelites got conquered, oppressed, robbed blind, okay? Now the Edomites have the knowledge, and they're using it to oppress not just the Israelites, but also their own people. All you Caucasian folks that follow me on all of my channels and all my shit, right, are subjected to the same shit that I am in the end, which is being under the rule of people that have knowledge you don't. Okay? And that is just a fact. It had nothing to do with the color of your skin. None of this has anything to do with the color of anyone's skin. Literally nothing. The only thing that the color of the skin has to do with is it's an indicator. It's like a chart that shows a timeline of transition, right? And that transition represents colonial invasion, okay? This is why you'll see people like me who are lighter skinned, okay? Lighter skin because I'm a mix of Edomite and Israelite. But because my father is Israelite, right, I am an Israelite. Yet now I'm a light-skinned Israelite. Whereas my brother down the street has dark skin, and he's an Israelite. You see what I'm saying? But there might be another dude or another chick or something down the street whose mom is an Israelite and dad is an Edomite, which makes her an Edomite. And she's blacker than me. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It just kind of reveals a little bit of the history, right? What really matters is the bloodline, all right? Are you part of the royal bloodline or are you not? There's no getting around it. How do we know the 144,000 haven't already been accepted? Because if they had, everybody else would be serving them already. We would be serving at their feet right now, right? And they would fit the description. Not only that, we would have went through world nuclear war. We would have lost over 2/3 of humanity, and we would have been basically in captivity underneath the 144,000 Israelites right now. And we would all know the laws. We would all know the commandments. We would all be worshiping Yahweh through the Israelites, right? All this is according to Scripture, through the Israelites, right? And the streets of the Israelites' kingdom would be paved in gold, right? This is all written, and it all has to come to happen. And if it doesn't come to happen, then we're not at that point yet. And this is why precept upon precept matters. And so, at this point, according to my calculations, we're about to hit the fifth trumpet, okay? Fifth trumpet is going to be the opening of what they call the bottomless pit in the Bible, which is really a tear in the veil, which is really a man-made black hole created by CERN, the CERN Academy, all right, who have admitted they're already trying to tear a hole in the veil in order to see what lies beyond. They want to send something through and see what comes back out, right? Well, according to Hebrew or Hebraic prophecy, right, what comes back out is the Lamasu under the command of Abaddon, right? Abaddon is Apollyon. Apollyon is Apollo. Apollo is Shiva, okay? This is very significant, right? Now, Shiva, it's debatable who Shiva is amongst the Anunnaki. Some people say he's Inky. Some people say he's Enlil. It's back and forth, right? But the point is, whoever comes out that bitch, right, is going to be an Anunnaki that is in charge of the Lamasu. If you don't know what a Lamasu is, Google it. It's where we get the word llama from, right? Not only do we get the word llama from that, I'm going to roll another blunt there. Not only do we get the word llama from that, it's what a sphinx is. If you ever seen the Babylonian structures or sculptures and stuff, you'll see those big things. Lamasu is basically like a bull with wings and claws, right? And like a human face, okay? And scorpion tail usually. it's this crazy creature, right? It's a mixture of things, and it's where we get the Sphinx from, right? All the Sphinx that you find around the world, they are Lamasus, right? And the face on the Sphinx originally was the face of Enki, right? It's the face of Enki because Enki is the one that built the pyramids and the Sphinx. He designed them and built them. All right, I'm gonna have to roll another blunt, guys. Sorry, it's just one of those days. We don't really have nothing to do. We're gonna go to the bookstore, I think, in a little bit. Pick up some more books. Other than that, we're chilling. This may affect this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna move this real quick. My blunts have been holding this up. You guys feel free to ask me questions, man. I like it when you guys ask questions because it helps me think of things that I might not think of off the top. I appreciate you asking that question, though, Bobby. That was a good one. All right. Not only that, the 144,000 will also be united singing the singing the song of Zion in the original language of the humans, right? Which was the language of the Anunnaki, the holy language. Sorry, guys. I'm so close here. Once I get this cracked, it'll go fast. I'm just in a blunt smoking mood right now. The Anunnaki aren't a race, right? Race is a modern term that we came up with in the last century. And it usually depicts ethnicity by skin tone and facial and body structure. But Anunnaki worked off nationality, right? The Anunna are the original beings created, right? The first beings ever created by who you can call God or the creator or whatever you want to refer to it as. The creator of all, right? We like to think in science, we think of the Big Bang Theory, right? And so the Big Bang Theory is no different than the story of creation through the indigenous, right? If you really study up on them. The Big Bang Theory is technically just describing the explosion of matter from antimatter. Okay, this is the energy from the quantum realm, or the energy from what they call dark matter, right? Dark matter consists of dark energy, right? Look at that shit in my face. Dark matter consists of dark energy, right? It's full of dark energy, right? And dark energy and dark matter are both completely invisible. Let's see my question. Oh, I'll answer it again for you in a sec. So within dark matter, there's dark energy. So if you've done a lot of DMT, you know exactly what's going on. Dark matter, right, is the DMT realm, and dark energy is the activity brewing within the DMT realm. They're constantly creating, constantly expanding, and that's why the DMT realm is constantly creating, or is constantly expanding. And that's why science can measure that the quantum realm, or the dark matter that is empty space, is expanding exponentially, right? And they predict it'll eventually take over matter entirely. Well, that's because there's an oscillation effect, right? Just like in everything else. Matter explodes out of the DMT realm, and then it's sucked back in. And it takes a tremendous, unmeasurable amount of time, damn near. Right? And with that comes life. Right? We call it the Big Bang, and from Big Bang comes evolution, right? Is what we like to call it. But evolution is just another way to describe the evolving of life as it grows, right? Everything emits from the DMT realm, and everything goes back to the DMT realm, right? But the prophecies say the DMT realm and the sorry, I'm sloppy with this blunt right now, guys. I just want to smoke it. The DMT realm and the material realm will be one and the same in the end times. They'll be merged as one, okay? The New Jerusalem coming down from heaven, okay, is the revealing of the kingdom of the Anunnaki here on Earth, all right? This is the merging of the DMT realm and this realm, or the enlightening of humanity to be able to see beyond 3 dimensions into the 4th dimension, right, and beyond, right? dimension is depth, basically, in this case, right? How far can you see into the realm? And so this is, babe, can you pull some more out of this? I don't remember which one it was. I don't want to put that on. I don't know if that's the right one or not. I'm sorry. Here's another one. There you go. We need some more. And so, what science is doing, right, with quantum physics, right, and with the CERN Academy, is they're trying to enter or reach within the DMT realm or the quantum realm. They're trying to see what's in this empty space that we know has energy, but we don't understand it, nor can we access it, right? The problem is humans have ill intent. The reason they want to do that is to harness the power. They even discuss this or use this as an example when they're discussing it, and they say that there's enough energy in one, what is it, cubic inch or some shit, 1 cubic meter, I forget what it is. I think 1 cubic inch of dark matter, there's enough dark energy to boil all the oceans in the earth, right? They'll tell you some shit like that, right? Which exposes the fact that they literally are wanting to utilize this for profit, for benefit, right? To help themselves. But they're going about it the wrong way because we're given a path on how to do this, right? And that is where the ancient sacraments come in. You don't need to create a particle accelerator to blast your way through the barrier, through the veil. What you need to do is man up. Get yourself right, follow the laws and commandments, and take the holy sacrament. That is what you need to do. And you can travel beyond any realm in existence with the holy sacrament, because the spirit, or the soul, if you want to call it that, the life force, is not trapped in the body. It only appears to be such. You can leave, you can ascend the body. These are the teachings of all the ancients. These are the Gnostic teachings, the pagan teachings, the Christian teachings, the fucking Muslim teachings, the fucking Hindu teachings, and Buddhist teachings, and Taoist teachings, and Kemetic teachings. They all teach the same thing. To ascend the body. How can you transcend the human body, right? Transcend. This is where we get the transmutation of the soul, okay? Or what is known as alchemy. Alchemy, everyone gets that word from Kemet, alchemy, right? It comes from Kemet, right? Then you have chemistry, right? All these things derive from Kim, K-M-T, K-E-M or K-M-T, right? Is the root of these words, which goes back to Kemet, which is the original word for Egypt, all right? Well, if you know, the original first ruler over Egypt was actually Enki, all right? Enki was the first ruler of Egypt. And when Atlantis fell, aka Mu, right, fell, thought the Atlantean, Quetzalcoatl, Tahuti, right, showed up in Kemet, or the land of Kim, and taught the Shemites the ways of his people. Right? This is found in the Papyrus of Ani, the Emerald Tablets, right? This is very important, you know. And I don't know. I mean, do you guys know about this stuff? Am I just talking to the air here, or you guys fill me in? You know, give me some comments, give me some feedback. I want to know what you guys know about this. Do you study this? Have you heard of any of this before? Have you heard of parts of it but didn't know the connections between them all? Because this is the Great Awakening right now. This is why I'm even on here doing this, and I'm not the only one. If you guys want to see a movement, make sure you got tough skin, right? If you're Caucasian especially, go check out Sakari, right? Or IUIC, right? I'm sure some of you guys have heard of them. This is a Hebrew Israelite movement, right? Most people have no clue what they're doing, you know, what they're talking about. Most people don't hear them out. Most people don't listen to them. I know what they're doing because I knew about it before I knew that there was a movement going on. I've just found out that there was big camps, or whatever you want to call them, like IUIC and Sakari and there's a bunch of them right now. Those are the two main ones, though. And I didn't know about all that stuff. I figured it out by studying the Anunnaki and the sacraments and following all the deities and all that stuff, the mythology. I'm still learning about this with my son. He goes to Catholic school, so I'm here listening to you. Man, first thing you should do is get him out of Catholic school, because, not to be mean, but you should get him out of Catholic school. That is the heart of indoctrination, man. That is the worst place to be. They will never teach you any of this. They'll never teach you who the Israelites are. They'll never teach you that we're still in the Old Covenant. They will never teach you that Christ didn't die for everybody, but only died for the Israelites. Romans 9 will show you. You can go to Romans 9 and 3 or 4 or something like that, and you'll see that Paul says that he wished he was accursed, right, from Christ for his brethren who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the laws and the covenants and the promises, right, and salvation. It's all for Israelites. It's right there, right. And then shortly below that, you'll see the reason why God chose one nation above others, right? Hath not the potter power over the clay. It's like Romans 9 and 14 or 20 or something, I forget. Hath not the potter power over the clay, right? For Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Right? The church is not going to teach you about this stuff, I promise you. Ask them about the sacrament. Where's communion come from, right? Blood and body of Christ, right? Right? Have you guys ever seen acacia? Really strong acacia dimethyltryptamine. Blood red. Literally looks like blood, right? Especially in places with warm temperatures, where it doesn't stay crystallized very easily, but instead turns into almost a sauce, right? Now, if you know about the Exodus story, right, you'll know that the Israelites, when traveling through the desert, were taught about manna, okay? And they had to eat manna for 40 days or something like that. 40 days and 40 nights, or 40 years, I forget how long it was. But 40 something, they had to eat manna, right? Now, if you know what manna is, if you really study manna is mushroom, okay? They're eating mushrooms, not just any mushrooms, right? Now, most historians will try to tell you that there's no way they're psychedelic mushrooms. But anyone that's done mushrooms and then goes and reads that shit will know exactly what they are. Especially people that have cultivated mushrooms. You'll know exactly what they're talking about. They describe how they're grown and everything, right? How to keep them dry, dehydrate them, the whole nine, right? They were used as food, both edible, both psychedelic and non-psychedelic mushrooms, I believe, right? Now, that would later be known as the body of Christ, okay? The mushrooms were the body of Christ, the bread, the manna, right? Manna is in a lot of the languages that you'll find Israelites speaking today, the scattered Israelites, right? Now, the blood of Christ was an elixir made from DMT and organovine that was extracted with alcohol or spirits, right? Usually a beer or a wine, right? And then mixed down with other things like henbane, wormwood, yada yada, right? Mint and barleys and whatever. And then would be taken in small doses from grails. Sorry guys, I'm trying to not rip this. It's a fragile one. From grails, right? And so the communion in church, right? Catholic Church is a great example. In Catholicism, they called it the Eucharist originally, right? The Eucharist came from the Kukion, right? And the Kukion comes from the study of Soma wine, right? All the same things. They are ancient sacraments, dimethyltryptamine and ergonovine-based sacraments, right? And let's see, almost done here. This is a really thin paper. I don't know if I even want to poke this one, honestly. I feel like it's gonna rip. And so, my little man's playing outside, but he's having my wife grab him some toys real quick. One sec. The one that has the screws. Hurry and grab it. So, if you guys want to learn more about the sacraments, First off, study all the indigenous cultures, their oral traditions, right? Don't just go take ayahuasca and be like, oh yeah, it changed my life, it made me better, my depression's gone, you know, my PTSD is gone, or whatever, right? Yeah, it helps with those things because it's a medicine, but before it was a medicine, it was a sacrament. It's just a side effect. The physical effects are a side effect, right? Because it's there to help heal the temple, right? Prepare your temple for the ascension or transition or transcending of the body, right? This is the whole point of the sacrament, right? Is to communicate with the other side, all right? Now, when, hold on, let me patch this and spark this bitch up. Is there any more coffee? Oh, you already on it? Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, when you study these sacraments, right, you can, if you want to read more on them, you can read The Immortality Key by Brian C. Murrah Rescue, right? He's a great author. He grew up in a Catholic school, so for those of you that were raised up Catholic, it'll give you something to relate to, right? He was a Catholic schoolboy, and he had never done psychedelics or anything like that, and he went and did all his research, studied this, and got the support of Graham Hancock in writing his book. So Graham Hancock does the opening dialogue in his book, and yeah, it's incredible. I'm sure he's tried psychedelics by now. After writing that book, he had to have been thrust into a situation where someone was like, "Bro, you have to try this." But at the time that he wrote the book, he had not tried any psychedelics.
That was 2019.
Yeah, 2019, I think. Yeah,
it was released.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so, 2020. I think it's 2020. Yeah, because it was around the same time of the beginning of this.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, the point is, I did it. The point is, the whole Bible speaks on this. There is actually information on extracting dimethyltryptamine and creating elixirs from acacia wood in the book of Psalms, if you know how to read it and what to look for in the Hebrew, right? And so it's just a lot, you guys, and I'm trying to help you guys understand that there is an awakening happening. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see these. I'm new to this info. Sorry. How come you say especially if you're Caucasian? Oh, okay. So for those of you that missed out on that, I know I have to repeat myself a lot on this, but Caucasians, right, can be traced back to Edomites, right? Edomites are the descendants of Esau, right? And remember, for those of you that didn't hear me earlier, the couple times I said it, I'm not here to bash white folks, aka Caucasians, but to spread truth regardless of who feels what about it, and to remember that I am also considered half white, so to speak. I was raised by my white family. I'm a product of a rape, right? So I don't know my black side, if you want to call it that, right? Black folks, descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, are Hebrew Israelites, and I just went over how I'm figuring that out, right? Well, part of it. And then Edomites are descendants of Esau, who would later be known as the Caucasians here in America for the most part, or just Caucasians in general. And he's a progenitor of the Caucasian race, right? And I was able to trace this through historical evidence, not just somebody telling me or believing something or whatever, right? I don't follow anybody. I'm not a part of anybody's camps or organizations or any of that stuff. That's just a disclaimer. I literally live in a tent, as you can see. I'm in a fucking Costco carport tent. And I do all of this stuff on my own, right? And I've been doing it on my own for a long time. Most of you guys have been following me for a while now. I used to be living the nice life like everybody else. I got other channel with a bunch of followers and all kind of material things and cool cars and cool house and all that shit. And I gave most of that up, not all of it yet, but most of it as I need to. I just keep giving it up in order to pursue this truth, right? Which is why I now live in a tent in Hawaii on the side of a fucking volcano, because I know it's coming and I'm preparing for it. And that all plays down into the prophecies of the Bible, which most people don't know are true because they don't know the history of the Bible, the true history of the Bible, which is that it's tracking the bloodline descendancy of the Hebrew Israelites who descended from Enki, the Anunnaki Enki, aka Yahweh, right, aka Ea, and this is very, very, very important because it's a royal bloodline, and they would lose all their information, their identification, their history, their knowledge of who they are, all this stuff, and basically become an unknown lost people, right? And those people would be taken into captivity by the Edomites and held for 400 years, yada yada, until the end times, which would be sparked by the Gog and Magog War, which is the war of Russia and China, coming against the United States, and then they'll win, and a bunch of other stuff happens. They get pushed back to CERN, yada yada, and then eventually the return of the Anunnaki and the cataclysms caused by the passing of Nibiru are all going to coincide within the next 7 years, I believe. And this is based off of my calculations, and I'm explaining how that is leading to a great awakening, which is inevitable based off of knowledge of past history and the patterns of history and those cycles and patterns that are controlled by the movement of the stars themselves. And yeah, just sharing how I came to that conclusion. So the reason I brought up Caucasians, or I said especially if you're Caucasian, is because to know this history, if you're Caucasian, you gotta have tough skin. You can't be overly emotional, because it's gonna upset you, because in the end it doesn't look too well for most Caucasian folks, and that's due to the punishment of the sins of our forefathers. And in the case of Caucasian folks, now the last 400 years has been colonization of the Israelites, which is all in the Bible, but it's also documented throughout history, and it's really rough to deal with, because you got to keep in mind all my family, my loved ones are Caucasian folks, and I have to explain the same stuff to them, which is crazy, and it creates a lot of tension and stress and anxiety and friction amongst people. But at the same time, it is important, and everybody knows the truth the truth shall set you free. But everyone also knows the truth hurts. It really does hurt, and so we got to prepare for that. And so I try to just warn people. I am going to talk a lot about the history of Caucasians, based off of the fact that their history impacts the history of every indigenous people on this planet. And it's inevitable that we are going to have to talk about that history. And so I just warn people before they join into these conversations, or get upset and start flaming in the comments and stuff like that, or whatever, calling me names and running away or whatever, call me racist or whatever you might want to call me, that you understand why I speak on these things. That it's not because of how I feel, right? Literally my brother, right? Me and my brother come from the same mom, different dads. My dad was an Israelite. His dad, we're not sure yet. He's Italian, so most likely he's an Edomite, but there was a specific group of Italians, indigenous Italians, that were Israelites, that were black Israelites, and that is why a lot of Italians have really dark curly hair and don't burn in the sun and get really dark skin and yada yada. They were literally called niggers, just like me. So, trying to figure that out. I'm gonna have great hopes and faith that my little brother is an Israelite. But these are things that we have to deal with, right? We can't just ignore it, What is this? I'm sorry, I didn't see all these comments. Give me one second, let me read them here. Yeah, you're correct so far from what I'm listening to. There's a lot of things that they don't learn that the Catholics really don't teach, that they hide. It's very true, Drift Craze. The Catholic Church is literally, it's a really bad thing. I can tell you all about the history of the Byzantine rituals and the pedophilia. They used to, for the Byzantine rites, they used to have a bishop or a member of the church would kidnap a child from his home at nighttime with the approval of the parents in exchange for credentials, right? Social credentials, right? Or a rise in the social scale, right? Kid would get taken in the woods for months, raped and beaten and abused, but then also taught how to be a man, right? How to make fire and cut wood and hunt and fish and all these things to survive, right? How to use weapons and this and that. And then they would get, paraded around town in this outfit alongside the bishop or the priest or whoever took them at the time, and would be given an opportunity to pick one of three different options, right? They can either become a member of the military, a member of the church, right? Or a member of the, where else was it? I think it was education system or political system, yeah, right? And as a reward, that was what they got, was an opportunity to serve in one of those three things. And the parents were given a sum of money and then political status. They're ranked up a little bit. And that was the original Byzantine rites. I have images of it that would give you chills. that you will never see anywhere else, because the only other place is in the Met Gallery and the Vatican.
I forgot.
Oh yeah, the Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts came from
God, the Boy Scouts came from the Byzantine rituals. The Boy Scouts are directly associated with Freemasonry, and a good way to know that is the fact that all Boy Scout meetings are usually held in Elks lodges and Masonic lodges. It's disturbing. Sorry, let me keep reading these. I don't mean to ignore you guys. How do I figure out how much DMT to do my first time? First time, stick to basically 15 to 25 milligrams, right? That's milligrams. Remember, that's 0.0015. 0.0025, right? And then your second time, which I recommend doing within 5 minutes of the coming out of the first one, 5 to 10 minutes coming out of the first one, is while you're still, kind of in that good space, is to step it up to 30 to 35 milligrams. That's 0.0030 or 0.0035, right? And that will show you the things. Once you're comfortable there, feel free to jump up in the 40, 50, and 60 milligram range. After 60 milligrams, you're really not going to see much of a difference. You basically are going to be completely incapacitated and experiencing death most likely at that point. So just so you know, it's terrifying sometimes. You're talking about the flood, the sun going to cause a flood soon. It's actually not the sun. The sun is acting up not on its own, but because it has a sister star, a nemesis star, right? And that's Nibiru, and it is approaching. And so, yes, that is why the increased activity in CMEs, right, or coronal mass ejections, right, and solar flares. That's because of the approaching of Nibiru. So recently my intuition kicked and can sense something is wrong. Yes, sir, something is definitely wrong. Because there is, I have need to seed info, which is how I randomly found your page. What's your views on Nibiru's return? It's returning as we speak. My guess is that we're going to see the effects of it returning increase over the next few years, and although no man can know the exact day or time, I believe that around 2029 we will have the full impacts of Nibiru setting in, and it will be visible. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. Isaac Newton thought it would be 2055, right? And that's Isaac Newton. He's a pretty smart motherfucker. A little bit smarter than me, maybe. So maybe it won't be 20 till then, right? But I think it's going to be 2029. What is this? I'm Sicilian and Caucasian. My DNA test said I was 5% North African. No, DNA test won't. It doesn't really tell you your ethnicity. It just tells you percentages of haplogroups from which that ethnicity or that haplogroup would be located by region, right? For instance, African isn't a ethnicity, right? It's just a region, right? And Sicilians are just a mixture of people, actually. Edomites and Israelites all kind of mixed together, right? And so, if you want to trace it back, you got to see where Sicilians come from, right? Because Sicilians aren't indigenous. Sicilians are Italians, right? And Italians, the indigenous Italians are black, but most people that call themselves Italian are actually white. And if you trace them back, you'll see that at a certain point in time, the Edomites invaded Italy, right? And they took it over. And that was right after the first takeover of Rome, when Augustus Caesar fell, right? If I remember right. Don't take me 100% on that history right there as far as the dates or as far as what came first, because I could be wrong about that. I'd have to go look again. But what I do know is that Italians also descend from Italians. It's kind of like here in America, right? White people in America call themselves American, but they're not actually American. An American is someone who's indigenous to America, right? The first people to live here, which would be the indigenous Amerindians, right? The Amarucans, right? like my wife's people, the Ava, or and the Taino. And so, same thing in Italy. Sicilians were a race of people that migrated there, right? And the Sicilians are they're descendants of Esau, right? And so, if you are Caucasian and Sicilian, it's telling you that you're an Edomite, most likely, right? But what you want to do is trace your father's side. Go back on your father's side, because that could be wrong. It could be leading you astray, right? Because like I said, it's not about your skin tone so much as it's about your ethnic identity, right? Your pedigree, which is tracked by the father's side. So we are our seed, right? Have you ever seen sperm, right? Sperm's already alive. It's heading to the egg, alive, making a move, right? It's on a mission already, right? When it hits the egg, it gives life to the egg, right? And the egg will then incubate it, okay? And the egg's incubation process, right? The egg is like the soil. The seed is like the seed of an apple, right? You plant that seed in any soil, it's going to grow an apple tree, right? But the soil is going to determine how good it grows, right? So you want to plant that seed in a healthy womb, in healthy soil, right? This is very important, right? We are our father. We are the seed, right? I don't know if you've ever seen the semen, right, blown up. It's basically the brain and the spinal column, right? In the Hindu traditions, it's known as the chakras, right, and the nadis. All pet breeds of cog. How about Jamaicans? Jamaicans are Israelites. Jamaicans are Israelites. We all pet breeds of Caucasians if you have a name. So that's part of it, actually, is the naming, right? All the Israelites' names would be changed to the names of their captors, right? Which are Edomite names. That's why the Central American Indians and Southern North American Indians, right, who we call Mexicans today, they were relabeled Mexican, right, and they were taught Spanish, and then they were given Spanish names, and then it was made illegal for them to speak their indigenous tongue, right, and now the indigenous, what's left of the true indigenous people in Mexico, we call them Afro-Hispanics or Afro-Mexicans, which is just colonial terms, labels, but in reality, they're Israelites from the tribe of Issachar. But that's why now you'll hear them called like Martinez or Gomez or Opazo, right? Like my wife's dad's last name was Opazo, right? These are slave names, right? These are names that were given to them by slave drivers, by colonizers. And we still carry these names today and speak these languages today. It's why I speak English and not Hebrew. I wonder if there is any place that is safe from the effects of the cycle of big electron Nibiru. Negative, man. Nothing's safe from Nibiru. All planets submit to that. All planets submit to the will of Nibiru. In the beginning, there's darkness, right? You guys ever read the beginning of the shit, right, in the Bible? What is it? Opening lines of Genesis, right? I don't know if I've explained this to you guys or not, but it says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, right? Now, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Lost Book of Inky or anything like that, study the tablets, but it's damn near the same story, but described a little bit more detailed, right? This is vague descriptions of this same thing, and that's because of the problem of transliteration. Hebrew is far more complex than English, and English cannot convey the Hebrew language appropriately, so much is lost, right? God created the heaven and the earth, right? Heaven is space, earth is matter in this case, right? Key. And the earth was without form and void, right? So The earth was without form and void. Okay, now if you study the story of Nibiru, Nibiru was basically a planet that traveled in a reverse cycle, a reverse pattern, and it caused problems, and it forced other planets to bend to its will, right, through its gravitational pull. Okay, and it had, same as the sun, it emitted CMEs, right? It constantly had these bursts of energy coming off of it that they were referred to as the winds, right? The north wind, the south wind, the east wind, and the west wind, right? And that is where we get the symbol of the cross. The cross isn't talking about the fucking Jesus being put on a cross, and it's not talking about the equinox and the crossing of the seasons. It's talking about the crossing of Nibiru, okay? The holy crossing of Nibiru. That's what it's talking about, right? And Nibiru was depicted as a cross many times. It was also depicted as a circle within a circle, right? It's also depicted as an Ouroboros. It is the source of the movement within our universe, right? All things bend to its will. The winds of consciousness, light cross and fuck shit up. That's it. Amen. And now, Earth used to be called Tiamat. And when Nibiru first passed by Tiamat, sucked the life out of Tiamat. Sucked all the fucking atmosphere out, right? Caused all kinds of earthquakes and eruptions and all kinds of shit, right? It had no life on it. It was a planet of water, okay? Complete oceans, all right? And when it passed by, okay, it started to pull up all the fucking lava from the center, right? All the magma comes out. If you guys know how gravity works and the passing of the planets and yada yada, right? There's a movement going on, and it creates the rise and fall of the magma, right? And that rise and fall of the magma has to do with gravitational pull from other planets and the sun and the moon, right? Which is what causes eruptions around the planet and the movement of the tectonic plates, right? So originally it's covered in water, right? Well, if it breaks the crust, okay, lava comes out, it rises, as you know, it creates mountains over time. Eventually land forms, okay? This is the movement of the dragon in the deep, right? The dragon in the water breathing fire in the deep, right? Or in the darkness, or let God, here, I'll show you, the spirit of God moving amongst the face of the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. All right, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called it the light day, and the darkness he called night, and yada yada. I'm not going to read the whole Bible to you right now, but point is, the spirit of God that moved upon the waters is referred to in a lot of oral traditions as a dragon moving in the waters, right? And as it breathes fire, mountains come out of this fire, okay? And it's like a battle between, like in Hawaii, it's the battle of Pele versus the god of the water, who I want to say is Kanaloa right now, but I could be wrong because I'm Irie as shit. And so this is the battle of land trying to take over water and water trying to take back over land, right? It's an epic battle amongst gods, right? The gods, in this case, are the movements of nature, the forces of nature, all right? All controlled by the movement of Nibiru, which controls the movement of all the other stars. Planets, sun, the moons, everything. It's like a structure, right? There is a hierarchical structure to this, an order of movement, right? It's not chaos, it's order, right? And that order is formed from a top-ranking member, which would be Nibiru, okay? And Nibiru is where the Anunnaki are from, all right? The Anunnaki are often associated with these stars, all right? And the movement of these stars, because all of their ranking, everything was determined by them. You see what I'm saying? The amount of time that they rule, everything. The amount of time that they live, the amount of time we live, everything is determined by the movement of the stars. Okay? The reason the Bible says these people lived so long, hundreds and hundreds of years, is because they did. They lived hundreds of years because they were originally from Nibiru, right? And then on Nibiru, it doesn't go around the sun in the same amount of time. The days aren't the same length. You see what I'm saying? The years aren't the same length. They went by what was known as a shar. Much, much longer than a human year. Yes, everything does have duality. In reality, everything has a duality in reality. I actually hope I get to experience something most don't with my mind. Yeah, everything does have duality. And all that duality emits from the singularity. And the singularity is the creator. Okay, and there's no way for me to prove to you the creator other than to tell you of my DMT experiences, and the purpose of DMT is to meet the creator and the deities that emitted from the creator. Each deity serves the creator, right? There's a hierarchy, like I said. Each deity serves the creator, and we're the ones that serve the deities. Each nation had a deity that they served. For instance, in Indus Valley, they originally served Rudra. Rudra would later become Shiva. Shiva would then become Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahman, right? Most people think Brahman's the highest god. It's not Shiva. Shiva's from Rudra, right? In ancient Kemet, right, is Ptah, right? And, and then later on, Osiris and Set and fucking Horus or whatever. These are Greek names for him, but you get what I'm saying. It's happened all throughout the world, the same story, right? And we always think of them as separate stories and separate peoples, but they're all describing the same thing. And once you read these stories and you do the DMT, take the sacraments, heavy dose, I'm talking big doses, bro, you will start to see that there is a direct correlation, right? I took sacrament before I ever studied any of this, right? Is what made me want to study this was the fact that I met these entities in this realm, and it was beyond real. It was more real than this is in a way that I couldn't describe. And I needed some sort of answers. I needed to figure out what was going on here. And when I started to realize that the beings that I was coming in contact with were actually the beings that were carved into these ancient temples on the walls and talked about in ancient tablets from 6,000 years ago, that changes everything, right? That changes my whole perspective. Now I know that there's something going on that has substance that's worth investigating. That's what led me to the understanding that I have now, is that humans did derive from who we call the Anunnaki. And not only did we derive from them, we inherited their royal bloodline, their airships, and it was given to a specific nation, and all other nations will eventually serve that nation. But before that time was to come, there would be a battle for this airship, many battles, and the Edomites would take over that airship and would rule for 400 years before this great battle, the return of the Anunnaki, and the return of Nibiru, which would cause mass cataclysms, mass problems, mass war, and pestilence, and all kinds of other shit, and migrations, and death, man. 2/3 of humanity is going to die, okay? And from that point, there will be a new order established. And that order will be under the rule of Yahweh, Enki, Ea, right? Whose rank of 40 is now in line to rule for the age of Aquarius. Okay? Under him comes the Hebrew Israelites, who inherit the kingdom, all right, and rule alongside him and his son. Do you see what I'm saying? This is significant. This is when we were given our opportunity to transcend the body, to become what all these hippie folks like to call light beings and whatever, right? Fucking star children and all that bullshit. What happens is we transcend the body. We no longer have a need for the body. In short, we fucking die, right? We die. And when we die, we are given life, eternal life. Life as we were in the DMT realm, not as we were here, right? But we will be in both the material and DMT realm at will, just like they're able to. This is what's promised. To rule amongst them, as them, like them, as one with them. And all other nations will serve the Israelites. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why it's important for the Edomites to know who they are is to know their judgment, which has nothing to do with me and my feelings, right? I know this pisses a lot of people off, but Edomites have been ruling over the Israelites for the last 400 years. According to the prophecies, that 400 years would come to an end where the Edomites would actually be put into slavery underneath the Israelites for 1,000 years, according to the prophecies. All right, and they say That's the whole, everyone knows about the, oh, you're going to pay for the sins of your fathers line, but nobody knows the actual context of it or what it's referring to. That's what it's referring to. The judgments of Esau, or the judgments on Esau and the Edomites. It's pretty crazy. It is pretty crazy. Sorry, guys. Just checking for comments. Now, you can track this by tracking the bloodlines, but you can also track the symbology. The eagle symbology is the most crucial. They're not stupid. The people that are in charge, ruling people, is the reason why all the presidents are related and all that shit. There's the reason why the Freemasons and the Illuminati and the Boule and all that can be traced back to the knowledge of Solomon's temple. It's all there. Ask me questions, you guys. The blunt's almost done. Hit me with some questions. I'll open the floor. The point I'm getting at is the Great Awakening is happening right now. If you don't believe me, just go look up, punch in Sakari or IUIC on YouTube. You'll start seeing the movement that's happening out there. Make sure you got tough skin, especially if you're Caucasian folks, because they do not hold back. They really don't like Caucasian folks. They're scorned. You know, I'm scorned as well, but I was raised around Caucasian folks, so I tend to be a little bit softer on them than my Israelite brethren that run these camps, right? And so my goal, I believe that if all Edomites were to come together and repent for their sins and come willingly into the laws and commandments and do the right thing, right? Give the land back and all that shit, which I know isn't going to happen, but I believe if it did, that God would have mercy on the Edomites. I truly do. But I don't think Edomites is going to do that, man. Most Edomites are proud of the fact they took this land, and they love the money that they get, you know. We're not supposed to love money, you know. We're not supposed to steal shit from people. We're supposed to be just and righteous, right? And that's how the land will be ruled under the Israelites, is just and righteous. In order, you know. Germ cells. No, I think germ cells will. I think all germs will continue to be germs. I just think that we will be immune to any germs once we inherit the kingdom, so to speak. Once we pass this war and these end times and things are restored, I believe that we will have the knowledge available to us to where germs are not going to be anything of concern. You gotta remember, before colonization, there were no major diseases, right? None. The people were extremely healthy and in harmony with the earth. The diseases came from the colonizing of the world and the taking away of that knowledge. And we're going to have to get back to that knowledge if we want to restore those ways, right? We have to return to harmony with the earth. We can't be in an imbalance, right? If you have an imbalance, that means that somewhere there's going to be an excess, and somewhere else there's going to be a shortage. You know what I'm saying? And that's never going to lead to peace and harmony, right? And so things need to be restored to their initial order, which is under the rules of the Anunnaki, and that will happen whether we want it to or not, because, well, they gave us life. They're more powerful than us. They rule over all these places, and we've been serving them this whole time without even knowing it. So if you don't think that it's going to happen, you're just in denial, you know, or you're uneducated on the matter. But once you're educated on the matter, you know, and you're knowledgeable of this history, you will see that it does repeat itself, and that there is specific prophecies coming true, and we are all going to be subjected to them, and it's just a matter of what you want to do about it, right? You gonna kick and scream and throw fits, or are you going to follow the fucking rules, right? We follow the rules laid out for us for traffic laws by people we don't even know. You don't know who wrote the laws to fucking for the traffic in your town, right? You go in a store, you follow the rules, you get in line, you pay as you're supposed to, whoop-de-whoop, right? But when it comes to the laws set out by the Anunnaki, we dismiss them as being mythology and going against our morals and standards, not realizing our morals and standards are just a figment of our imagination. They're all rooted in their moral standards, right? And that without the guidance from those who taught us initially, we're bound to go astray, right? Which is why we're considered the lost sheep of Israel, right? Us Israelites went astray. We don't know our laws and commandments anymore, but we're coming back to them. We're learning them. We forgot about the sacraments, but we're coming back to them. We're learning them. And as we do, the awakening happens further and further. It's an exponential growth. It's inevitable. Literally inevitable. It's not going to go away. And so, what are you doing about it? Are you preparing, right? Some people are going to go against the movement. They're going to want to fight on the side of colonialism and defend their ill-gotten gains, so to speak, and feel patriotic about it. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. And you got to realize, everybody that was colonized, right? The Mexicans, the Indians, the Alaskans, you know, the Taino, the Haitians, and the Cubans, and the Puerto Ricans, and the South and Central Americans, you know, tons of them, right? The Polynesians, all of them, right? If they unite as one nation, which they are, that's a problem for anybody that goes against them. And if they have the ruling Anunnaki on their side, well, then it's inevitable that everybody is going to eventually have to follow. And this is, sorry guys, I don't know what happened there, it cut out for a sec, but it's inevitable that everyone's going to have to fall in line, whether they want to or not. We just gotta do the right thing, you know. And it's not about color or skin tone or whatever. It's about the bloodline. It's about order. It's about the fact that there was something put in play here long before we were born, and we're all subject to it, right? And it's a good thing. It's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. It is the one source, true original source of order amongst humanity. It's the thing that gave us order to begin with. Laws, rules, regulations, a way to govern ourselves correctly, right? And that has been manipulated horribly over the last 2,000 plus years. You know, I want to say actually more like 4,000 years. It's been manipulated horribly, but especially over the last 400 years. And we can get into more details on the next one if you guys want. But I'm going to give you a few more minutes to ask me questions, you guys, and then I'm going to call it on here. So let me know if you got something you want to ask me. I'm going to load this roach while I wait. These questions, if there are any. Is this the first time you guys have heard this? Has anyone heard this before? Or is this new to you guys? Did you know about the Anunnaki? Did you know about the Hebrew connection to the Anunnaki? Did you know about the Me's of Destiny or the Tablets of Destiny? Did you know about the Hebrew Israelites being the true indigenous Americans and Polynesians and Caribbeans? Where is this? Or is this new information to you guys? I'm very curious. I would like to have people on here for debates. If anyone disagrees or has something they believe they could bring to the table that I may not know, and you're willing to catch a little smoke without, you know, getting too emotional about it, eventually I'd like to have people on so we can have these debates. As it sits right now, I don't know how to do that yet. I was going to do that for this one, but I haven't taken the time to learn yet. So I'm not sure if I can do it straight from my phone or not. Pretty sure I can, but I gotta use something like Streamlab. You've heard some of it? That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, think of the implications of what all this would mean, right? If I am correct, right? In my research and my calculations, yada yada, if I am correct, the implications are that we're going to see some serious upset from here on out. It's not going to get any easier. We're going to see a lot more diseases spreading and a lot more war and famine and things of that nature. We are going to see some weird cosmic activity. We will see war on U.S. soil for the first time in 400 years, basically. Well, I say that because Pearl Harbor doesn't count. Pearl Harbor was never U.S. soil. You guys ask me some shit. Hit me on some politics and religion. Anything. Hit me. Oh my lord. You guys know where to look to learn this stuff? Most people say they don't have time, right? And that's mainly because they're busy chasing money. But that's the whole point. You got to get away from doing that if you want to find your truth, find your freedom. You can't be busy working for the man. Smartest things you can do if you're an Israelite is get some property and get back on these laws and commandments. Start studying this history. That way you know what the fuck is going on. Because there's a lot. And if you don't know what's going on, it's going to be a bit of a slap in the face when the shit goes down. New people in here, if you want to know what's going on, hit me with some questions. I open the floor up. We're going to end here in a little bit. But I open the floor up to questions. Not getting a lot for some reason. Y'all just staring at a nigga sitting here smoking weed. But I really want some questions. So hit me with some questions. Have any of you guys figured out who you are according to the Bible? Have any of you guys traced your history back to pre-colonial names? Are any of you guys indigenous Native Americans on your father's side? Your father's father, right? Not your grandmas, but your grandpas, right? On your father's side. More detail about the 12 tribes? Well, the book of Deuteronomy lists the curses on the 12 tribes. They're split into two separate nations, right? The priesthood nation was the Levites, or the Leviticus priesthood. The tribe of Judah, right? Everyone knows the dude named Jesus, right? His real name is Yahushai. He's from the tribe of Judah, right? The tribe of Naphtali is, those who wound up in the Polynesian islands, who I believe one of these tribes, one of these Polynesian tribes to be sellouts. I'm not going to say on who right now, but one of them definitely is responsible for helping the Edomites invade the rest of the Polynesian islands. Yeah, see, everybody is a human for the most part, but you got to know what that means, right? Human, right? That word human derives from the same word as hue, which refers to spectrum or color, right? Melanin, right? A hue. And a man refers to, obviously, humanity, people, right? But the human was separated into nations, right? We weren't all created the same. So most people think we all come from Noah, but we don't. Noah and his family weren't the only people who survived the flood, right? Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And there was also Cain, right, from the Cain and Abel story, right? Cain survived the flood, and not only did he, or well, he didn't survive the flood, but he died from a rock falling on his head while he was building a city for his children. His children, he had 2 sons, 2 daughters, managed to escape the flood by going to the top of a mountain, building rafts, right? And they rafted off from the top of the mountains. So there's the line of Noah, there's the line of Cain, right? And then there was also the line of the Agigi, right? The 300 fallen angels that everyone thinks, disappeared. The children of the fallen angels were known as the Nephilim. And in the Sumerian and Akkadian stories and whatever, they were known as the Agigi or the Igigu, right? And they were the 300 who used to manage the way stations on Mars, and they came to Earth for Marduk's wedding. Marduk is Amun-Ra in Egyptian mythology, right? For his wedding, right? I want to say his wife's name was Sarponet, maybe. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is, they came to his wedding, and they kidnapped 300 women, human women, from this wedding, right? And they took them to the caves of the Caucasus Mountains. Go figure, right? And they wound up surviving, not there, but when the floods happened, they left in spaceships, right? Along with Marduk and his human wife, who I keep wanting to say is Serponit, but I might be getting that wrong. They left and went to Mars, I believe, is where they went to wait this out, or they orbited the Earth as well. I can't remember. But they left the Earth in spaceships, basically, and took their wives with them, right? And their children, their families. And they came back, right? They were called back later on in the story and returned with their families, right? Which means that the descendants of the 300 Gigi, they survived as well. Now, they were a so-called Caucasian race, right? And then the other Caucasian race descended from Shem along with the Israelites, but they were split at Jacob, right? Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and then Israel, right, had his firstborn son, Esau, right, who sold his birthright to, I'm sorry, had his 12 sons, the Israelites, and his twin brother Esau. I can't believe I was getting that wrong. His twin brother Esau, whom was his firstborn, right, or was Isaac's firstborn, and he sold his birthright to Jacob, Israel, okay? I was all over with that right there. Anyways, Jacob and Esau were the twin brothers, right? That came from Rebecca and Isaac, okay? And Esau was the red man, or progenitor to the what we call the Caucasian race today, and Israel was the progenitor to the Jewish tribes, right? The 12 tribes of Israel, which are collectively just kind of referred to as the Jews. But the real Jews, not the ones that are in Israel, not the Jews with the things and the little hats and shit. Those are not real Jews, right? These are Ashkenazi and Sephardic and things of that nature. Most are Ashkenazi, which is referring to German Jewish people, which are Germans who practice Judaism, but they aren't actually Jews. They don't descend from the tribe of Judah. They descend from the Gentile tribe of Ashkenaz, son of Gomer. And so these are the people that survived the flood, right? Is you had Noah's 3 sons and Noah, right? And then you had, you had Noah that survived. You had Cain's 2 daughters and 2 sons that survived. You had the Agigi and their sons and daughters that survived. And then you had Marduk and his son, I believe, right, and wife that survived. And Marduk was Anunnaki, his wife was human, so his son was hybrid, right, or a demigod, so to speak. And then you had the Agigi and their children, right, demigod, so to speak, right, which is why they lived a lot longer, right, known as the Nephilim. And then you had Noah and his children, right. Now you got to keep in mind, the Bible says Noah was the son of Lamech, right, but he wasn't. He's the son of Enki, and that's why he lived so long as well. And his children. So Noah was a demigod as well, technically, right? And that's why he was given the tree of life. And so all of this is what led to the nations we have today, right? And from what I can trace, right, the so-called Caucasian man, or white race as we call them, were actually referred to as ruddy or red in the olden days, and descend from the Edomites of Idumea and Petra and yada yada, from Esau in the Caucasus Mountain range. And the who we consider the Chinese, which there's actually 2 versions. There's the indigenous Chinese and then those who invaded and took over. which was the basically the imperial, um, or the imperial Hun, or the Hun dynasty is what it was, right? The Hun dynasty, and the Hun dynasty, I believe, are the descendants of the Igigi, right? And so you have the indigenous Chinese, which are very dark skinned, black people known as Nagas, and same in Japan, right? And then you have the Han Chinese who came over and took over most of Asia, and they are very light skinned, white, real white people, right? And so these are the races, right? Everyone would refer to them as yellow in the colonial age, but in reality they were white, and the colonizers would refer to themselves as white, even though they were originally referred to as red. And so this is where we get this from. The Gigi race was a white race, and I believe the Hun descended from them in the Caucasus. And then I also believe that the Edomites descend from Esau and also lived in the Caucasus, along with the Jews who lived in the Caucasus, the Israelites. And this is where everything comes from, you guys. This is how I figured it out. And now we're dealing with the end of that story, which is where people are starting to realize who they are, right? And that they aren't black or Mexican or Puerto Rican, right? Puerto Rican is not an indigenous name. That's not a name that the indigenous people of Puerto Rico used for themselves. Those were the Taino Indians. Puerto Rico is referring to the rich port, to the port of riches, right? By the colonizers. Why? Because it was a #1 fucking slave port for the transatlantic slave trade. They make bank out of that place. All these things are there for a reason, you guys. And we should definitely be paying attention to it. And I'm sharing this with you guys so that I can sleep at night. Because I can't sleep very well knowing that I know this shit. And not a lot of people seem to know it. So everyone's arguing over who we are. Are we indigenous Americans? Are we Africans? Are we Egyptians, Sumerians? What are we, right? Indians? We're all the above, because the Israelites were spread amongst all the nations, right? We went into exile, and then we were put into captivity. Captivity is slavery, subjugation, oppression, right? And that's what's been happening ever since. And unfortunately, that is the true history of America, and it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, right? A lot of my white friends, my Caucasian friends, so to speak, my Edomite friends, I guess, they stop being my friends when I tell them this story. And I didn't write the story. I didn't write the history, right? I'm not the one that decided that Caucasian folks should invade the Americas and take all these people captive and take all their stuff and do what they did to them. I didn't write that story. That's history writing itself. You know what I mean? And we gotta acknowledge it, right? We gotta acknowledge it. 9/11 happened. Everybody wants to remember 9/11, right? But what about the Trail of Tears, right? Do we celebrate? Or celebrate? Do we have a remembrance of that? Do we honor that, right? Do we condemn the people behind that? Nah, we honor the people that did it, and don't speak nothing of those they did it to. And that story is repeated over and over throughout the entire history of colonization here, and it's karma that has to be dealt for that. And I'm not behind it. I just found that it's true. It's a true thing, and we cannot escape these cycles, these oscillations of life. The tides are about to turn, and people should be prepared for that. And I hope that most people out there that descend from a colonial background, instead of trying to take the approach of, well, I wasn't alive back then, so it's not my fault, or my fault, I wasn't alive back then, so it's not my fault. Maybe you'll realize that you didn't have to be. You were born here, which means you inherited those ill-gotten gains. Every opportunity you've had in this land is off the blood of the indigenous people here, the Hebrew Israelites, which were God's chosen people, Yahweh's chosen people, the royal bloodline. And Yahweh said himself, that you gotta pay for the sins of your fathers, and that the Edomite sins would be enslaving the Israelites for 400 years, which they did. And payments due, and Y'all worried about reparations and stuff. You shouldn't be worried about the money, because it's a lot worse than just giving up some money. Um, Things are going to get restored entirely, and it's going to happen through war, because nobody's going to just give it back. That greed is going to come back to haunt people, and I'm just trying to get the word out, because I know that not all of you guys have it in your heart to be a part of what your ancestors did. Not all of you guys have it in your heart to stand on that type of a history and be proud of it. Some of you guys are ashamed of that history. Some of you guys want to clean your hands of that blood, and there's a way to do that, and it's in the Bible. And if you go read, you'll start to figure it out. The way to repent isn't to just ask Jesus to be your Lord and Savior. That's not even for you. The way to repent for an Edomite is to actually come back to these laws as well, but through the servitude of the Israelites. You got to come back and switch places with those that you've been over, right? And it just is what it is. I know that most of y'all ain't gonna do that, and that sucks, right? And so we're gonna have to watch how it plays out, and nobody can say I didn't warn nobody, and that's why I do these live streams, is because I'm just trying to get this word out there, and I open it up to questions because I want people to ask me questions so they can see that I'm not oh, someone did ask me questions. I'm sorry. From my understanding, we're all fallen angels due to our minds being here and hell, separated from the whole consciousness. But in this reality, it makes sense how all the cells would come here. Especially in the end, we were about to all die or reset. Yeah, see. Alright, so let's address that. I heard America's supposed to give black people 27 whole states. Alright, so we are in a lower state of consciousness as a whole, right? Because in a higher state of consciousness, we would be just and righteous, but we're not. But we're cycling back up. We're going through these yuga cycles, right? It's never-ending cycles, right? And as we ascend, right, back to the more righteous cycles, right? We're gonna have to first go through the trauma of breaking apart from our evil ways, our wicked ways, which is gonna be rough, right? And that's what I speak of. Those wicked ways are the last 400 years, and we've grown accustomed as humans, regardless of race, to living in a way that we call the American dream or the American way. And it really has nothing to do with America at all. America is a conquered land, right? The way that we were following is the way of the Edomite, right? The way of the wicked, the way of the heathen, right? And that's those who exalt themselves as the eagle, right? And if you look anywhere you find colonized land, you're going to find that eagle. And it represents Esau, Edom, and those that they worship, right? Which is Ninurta and Enlil, the double-headed eagle, the Janus, right? The Byzantine eagle, yada yada. It's a big deal, so we got to break away from that, right? How do you cleanse yourself of these things, right? You got to be righteous. You got to give it back, man. If you steal something, right, you got to pay for that. You know, you got to give it. You got to give it back. You gotta pay dues for the crimes, right? You got to serve for the punishment, or you got to serve the punishment. You got to just take it like a man, I guess, you know. And a lot of us don't even realize we've been living the way of the heathen. We think that we're supposed to be doing all the shit we're doing, but we're not. We're not supposed to be whipping cars all over, fucking the land up. We're not supposed to be cutting down all the forests. We're not supposed to be eating all these animals up and fucking polluting all these waters and fucking building all these cities and fucking the air up and doing all this shit. We're not supposed to be doing none of this shit. Niggas is worried about what clothes they wearing. Niggas is worried about their popularity count and their fucking body count and all this other shit. It's stupid. It's stupid. And none of that shit. That's always the heathen. Gang banging and fucking politics and fucking all this shit's all heathen shit, right? And we're supposed to return to the ways before that, which is the ways of Israel, the ways of the Hebrew, the ways of knowledge, light, truth, justice, order, righteousness, right? No chaos, right? No destruction. When all things are in order, there is no destruction, right? And the problem is now the wrong people are in charge. They're not supposed to be in charge. It wasn't their shit. They stole it. And once it's returned, things will be restored to the righteous ways. course, there'll be bloodshed most likely because not everybody wants to get this shit back. Very small percentage of people want to make right the things of the past, the things of their forefathers, the wrongdoings of their ancestors. But we got to. I've had so many people say, well, what about you? You benefit off this stuff. Yeah, but I was born here as a slave. Literally, I'm a descendant of a slave. My people were brought here and we were never returned. Right? They say, well, you were set free. Not exactly. We weren't set free. We were just allowed to exist in the land. We're technically not even citizens on paper. If you check, research the Census Bureau, and you'll see. And so, was that? I heard America's supposed to give black people 27 whole states. No, they're gonna give us back everything. They ain't gonna like it, but they're gonna have to. They're gonna give us back everything. Everything, not just America. We're taking everything. America, Africa, all of it is gonna be restored back to Israel, and then everybody will return to following the laws of the Israelites. It's inevitable. It just has to happen. There's no other way. It's the way the cycles work. It's time. And so, it'll happen. What does it say? I've heard hair determines whether you're an Israelite. Like Caucasian hair is 6, either in bloodlines of the Israelites, and 9, either. No. Israelites are just, they're determined by a bloodline pedigree. So, the house of your father, right? I forget the verse right now, but the Israelites follow the exact same rules, laws as the Anunnaki. And it says so in the Bible itself, is that the Israelites track their pedigree by the house of their father, every man unto his father, right? And so your firstborn is your heir, your first heir, right? As long as it's your firstborn male. And it's patriarchal on your father's side, so you are what your father is. So even if your mother is a Canaanite or an Ishmaelite or a Edomite or whatever, the son would be, or the children would be that of the father's seed, which means they would still be Israelites. Now, they will not be considered Jews, though, until they actually, in fact, they're not even considered Israelites technically, unless they follow the laws and commandments as well, right? So if you are an Israelite by blood, but you don't follow the laws and commandments, then you are technically a Gentile, right? Now, a Israelite who is a Gentile can return to being an Israelite, or a Jew, so to speak, based off of returning to the laws and commandments. However, if you are a Gentile by nation, meaning your bloodline is Gentile, then you can never be an Israelite, albeit you can serve the God of Israel through the Israelites, right? And that's a big part of it. You'll read about Edomites prostrating themselves and throwing themselves down to worship at the feet of Israelites. Not to worship the Israelites, but to worship the God of Israel through the servitude of his chosen bloodline, his royal lineage, the Israelites. That's why. And it's very significant. But most people don't actually read the Bible entirely. They'll read stuff about the Bible before they'll read the Bible, which I was guilty of myself, technically. No, not really. I read the Bible first because I read it when I was young. I was only 15 when I read the Bible first time. But then I'm reading again even now, and I've read it a bunch more since then. I've read individual books out of it and the apocryphal stuff off and on, and but now I'm trying to read the whole thing again thoroughly, because I'm more awake now than I ever have been. So now I'm absorbing more from it than I ever did before. I'm understanding the hidden messages within it, how to truly decipher it and divide the word, and to understand precept upon precept, which I didn't understand before. And so it changed the way I have viewed the Hebrew literature, right? Now I know of it as my ancestral's teachings, or my ancestors' teachings, right? My ancestral lineage, my heritage, and not just a book that was brought to us by a religious organization, but instead was stolen from my ancestors by a religious organization that was ran by the Edomites themselves. And now we're getting it back. That's, you guys know this is why they came out with the slave Bible during colonization, right? They redid the Bible by pulling a bunch of stuff out of it, and would give it to slaves, right, and have them read the slave Bible in order to subdue us and help us maintain order, right, or help them maintain order, help keep us submissive, they never would talk about the freeing of the slaves, right? Only the fact that slavery would happen and that it was okay, right? And they'd have it worded in a way for us to believe that God wanted us to be enslaved underneath them. And we should be thankful for that, you know, and that kept us in line a lot of times. It wasn't until the story of Nat Turner, when Nat Turner got his hands on a real Bible, read the real Bible to fellow slaves, that an uprising occurred, and they killed a bunch of slave masters in a revolt before getting killed themselves, you know, and became heroes amongst the so-called black Americans, right, or descendants of slaves, the Hebrew Israelites from the tribe of Judah. It's the first time we ever realized, again, that we were Judean, but all those that realized it were killed off again for the most part, and those that knew had to keep secret so that they wouldn't be killed off as well. And thus the knowledge was almost lost again. But it's back. Right? It's been back. People are waking up. For me, it was the sacraments that woke me up, taking the heavy doses of dimethyltryptamine and ergonovine along with psilocybin and even MDMA sometimes, but I don't give that credit really. And then also the studying of these situations, these events, these historical events, the ancient literature, the etymology, you know, petroglyphs and hieroglyphs, Sanskrit and Hebrew, you know, cuneiform and all these, you know, all these things, right? It's liberating, it's enlightening, it's alienating also though, because many people do not take fondly to this stuff, and you lose a lot of friends in the process, you know, but it feels good to know the truth, and it feels good to be able to take care of my family the way I need to, be able to protect them without having to seek the approval of my oppressor. I don't. It's a hard past to swallow. It is something I definitely do have emotions about, and upsets me tremendously personally. But I don't preach how I feel usually. I just want to get the information out there and let you guys know that I'm trying to take a non-violent approach to coming up with this. You know, I'm not trying to let my anger out in a violent way or um, to retaliate, but instead to enlighten and to spread the truth so that those who have an ear to hear can hear what's supposed to be heard. And those who have the will to act on that and commit to the works can do the work. And yeah, that's all I can really do. And then be an example myself, which I'm working on. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not following all the laws yet myself, but I'm getting there. I'm trying as I learn them and as I figure out how I can incorporate that into my life. Um, because I don't have money for this shit, you know. Like I can't even buy fringes right now. I literally don't have money for fringes, but I will at some point, and I'm gonna buy some fringes. And you know, it's one more step closer to following the laws and commandments because we are still in the old covenant, and we need to be honoring these things the best we can. So that's what I intend to do. And I'm going to keep bringing you guys this information and trying to share with you as much as I can. And hopefully it gets to some people out there. Hopefully it gets to my people. For sure, I'm hoping it gets to my people. And to any of you who are not Israelites, I'm hoping it gets to you too. And you guys can find a moment to dig deep within yourselves and figure out if it's worth it to seek the right thing and do the right thing, or if you want to embrace that bliss that is comfort. And remain in your ignorance. You know, protect your ignorance, and just wait to see what happens. I personally hope you guys choose to do the right thing. I hope you guys choose to really go research this stuff and see what I'm talking about. Read the Lost Book of Inky. Read the Immortality Key. Read DMT and the Spirit Molecule, DMT and the Soul Prophecy. Read the Papyrus of Ani, you know, the Emerald Tablets. Read the Popol Vuh, the Mayan Popol Vuh. you know, study up, read the Children of the Rainbow, you know, and study up on all the mythologies around the world and start memorizing these stories, right? Learn the Iliad and the Odyssey, and learn the story of Osiris and Set, and learn about, you know, the power of Isis and the connection between her and Ishtar and Kali and yada yada. Just take the time to do it, you guys. Get these things memorized, ingrained deeply into your consciousness, into your memory, so that you understand, because there will be a point where there won't be no internet for you to refer to go check this shit real quick. You won't be Googling this shit here soon. Um, you'll have what you have in your brain and what you have in your little stash of books, and that's it. And maybe PDF files on your phone, but once your battery dies and you can't charge it again, well, then we're gone too. So maybe start getting some books, start writing stuff down, start making copies, printing things, whatever you got to do to get physical copies of this information, transcripts, whatever you got to do, and you know, memorize the shit, get it in there, get it deep inside your fucking head, so it doesn't ever come back out. And oh, the fly just got in here. I gotta go kill that. All right, and don't forget it. All right, you guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Appreciate the support. Get the word out there. You guys share this stuff if you want to. I know it's not very entertaining, but hopefully it's informative and helpful to some of you, and at least maybe cause a little bit of curiosity, so that you guys will want to dig deeper into this stuff and figure out for yourselves what's going on. That being said, you already know what it is. Get high, stay happy. I'll see you in the clouds.